All right, let's dive right into an incredible period of history where ideas traveling across the water literally transformed early Japan. We often think of civilizations developing entirely on their own, but no society grows in a bubble. Between the years 400 and 800 CE, Japan experienced this massive wave of new influences. In this explainer, we're going to explore exactly how beliefs, writing systems, government models, and art moved across the seas. And we'll see how the people of early Japan didn't just copy these ideas. No way. They actively adapted them to create something entirely unique.
Before we map out our journey, let's take a look at today's essential question to keep in the back of your mind. Think about this as we go. How did ideas from China and Korea help transform early Japan? While we're going through the explainer, I want you to be on the lookout for specific examples of what arrived, who brought it, and exactly how it changed Japanese society.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with geography and connecting cultures. Then look at why Korea was more than a bridge. Explore the power of writing, trace new beliefs and ideas, and finally see how this all led to building a Japanese state.
Let's start right off with our first section, geography and connecting cultures.
So, to understand how ideas move, you really have to understand the landscape first, right? Notice these sea routes stretching across the Yellow Sea, the East China Sea, and the Korea Strait. People couldn't just walk over from the Asian mainland to Japan, they had to sail in stages. This geographical reality meant the sea acted like a giant natural shield, protecting Japan from being directly conquered by mainland empires. But at the exact same time, it allowed merchants, diplomats, and monks to bring incredible new knowledge right to places like Kyushu.
Teachers, this is a great time to pause the explainer so your students can think about this. How can geography make it easier or harder for ideas to travel? Just consider how a vast ocean might stop a massive invading army, but easily carry a single merchant ship.
Welcome back. So as ideas moved across these waters, Japan experienced something called cultural diffusion. Now it's absolutely crucial to understand that cultural diffusion doesn't mean simple copying. It's more like selecting, changing, and adapting new traditions. When a society adopts a new technology or belief, they mold it, kind of like clay, to fit their own unique needs and existing traditions.
Let's do a quick turn and talk. Go ahead and pause the presentation here and discuss with a neighbor. Does borrowing an idea from someone else make a society less original, or can that borrowing actually spark brand new creativity? Moving right along to our second section, we really need to talk about the essential role of Korea, which was definitely more than a bridge in this story.
Okay, it is a huge historical misconception to say Korea just passed Chinese ideas along. Honestly, you'll hear people say that Japan simply borrowed from China, but that leaves out a totally essential part of the picture. During this time, the Korean peninsula was home to these powerful kingdoms, Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla, and they had their own brilliant scholars, monks, and artists. They had already taken Chinese writing and philosophy and adapted it for themselves. So when ideas finally reached Japan, they were often brought by Korean people who possessed incredible specialized knowledge. We're talking about sculptors and architects who knew exactly how to build and create things, not just trade them.
Look at this dynamic chain of adaptation. An idea might be adopted from China, then deeply adapted by Korean scholars or metalworkers to fit their kingdom, then transmitted across the sea by Korean diplomats or migrating families, and finally reinterpreted all over again once it arrived in Japan. So Japan often learned about China actually through the brilliant adaptations of Korean people.
Time for a classroom discussion. Pause here and explain why calling Korea a mere bridge leaves out an essential part of the story. Think about what we just learned regarding adaptation and those highly specialized skills.
Let's transition over to our third section and explore a tool that changed absolutely everything: the power of writing. Imagine trying to govern a massive growing realm when every single law and every tax count of thousands of bags of rice had to be memorized. It's wild to think about. The contrast between relying on spoken orders that could easily get mixed up versus locking in permanent rules is massive. Before Chinese characters entered Japan, there was no known native writing system. So getting writing literally revolutionized the Japanese court's ability to lock in rules, communicate perfectly over long distances, organize land records, and firmly establish a cohesive government.
Writing was a tool that arrived from the mainland, but watch how the Japanese adapted it. Chinese and Japanese are completely different spoken languages. I mean, totally different grammar and sounds. So adopting Chinese characters wasn't just a simple copy-paste job. Japanese readers and writers had to develop new ways to use these characters, which became known as kanji. And eventually, over centuries of adaptation, This actually led to the creation of Japanese syllables, like kana, to perfectly represent their native spoken words. It was a real game changer.
Teachers, pause here for a quick check. Discuss with the class. Why would this brand new ability to write things down help rulers control a much larger and growing realm?
Building right on that power of the written word, we arrive at Section 4, New Beliefs and Ideas. Let's look at the spiritual transformations taking place.
Now let's trace the incredible, multi-century journey of Buddhism. It didn't just hop on a direct flight from India to Japan. It traveled slowly, moving along long-distance trade routes through Central Asia, into China, and down into the Korean kingdoms. And at every single stop, Buddhism was translated, reinterpreted, and blended with local artistic styles. So by the time it formally reached the Japanese court, traditionally from the Korean kingdom of Baekje around 538 or 552 CE, it was already this highly transformed and super complex belief system.
What's truly fascinating is that Buddhism didn't just erase Japan's existing beliefs. Japanese society already honored kami, these sacred beings associated with nature, ancestors, and specific places. And instead of replacing the kami, the two traditions basically coexisted and interacted. Buddhism brought in stunning new forms of art, towering pagoda architecture, and sacred holy texts called sutras that really pushed the need for literacy. In the end, many Japanese people wound up practicing both, adapting Buddhism so it fits seamlessly right into their existing world.
Let's pause the explainer one more time to reflect on this. Why might Japanese leaders have been torn between the excitement and prestige of a major foreign religion and the concern of abandoning the kami traditions of their ancestors?
All right, let's move into our final section and see how all of this builds into building a Japanese state.
Because all these imported ideas ultimately served a massive political purpose. Japanese rulers really wanted a stronger, more stable, and centralized nation. So what did they do? They studied Chinese models that were heavily rooted in Confucian philosophy. Confucianism emphasized order, duty, respect for authority, and moral leadership. And rulers absolutely loved these ideas because they supported social order. They borrowed systems like official government ranks, written legal codes, organized ministries, and even the concept of designing their capital cities on a very neat, orderly grid system, which was totally inspired by the great Chinese capital of Chang'an.
We can see the rapid result of all that intense studying right here on this timeline. Starting with Japanese embassies in 607 CE traveling to China to gather knowledge, Japan swiftly enacted the Taiko reforms to centralize land and taxes. By 701, the Taihok Code established a massive legal system. And in 710, the magnificent permanent capital at Nara was built. But remember, and this is key, they didn't copy perfectly. They kept their emperor as the highest spiritual and political authority and retained the power of their traditional noble clans.
To wrap up, always remember the big picture of this era. Japan learned from China, they learned heavily from Korea, and they often learned about China through Korea. Cultural exchange wasn't just some passive event where they sat back and absorbed things. It was a highly active process. They encountered new ideas, selected the ones that worked for them, deeply adapted them, and ultimately created a distinctly Japanese civilization.
Now it's your turn to be the historian. For your final task, choose the influence you think transformed early Japan the absolute most. Was it the linguistic power of writing, the religious impact of Buddhism, the philosophical order of Confucianism, the political systems of government, or the cultural beauty of art and architecture? Pick your favorite and defend your choice using the evidence we've covered today.